Who is going to get off the schneid here? Is it going to be my Spartans or Sonny's Illini? Well, we're going to talk about keys of the game, what's going to go on, and more. Let's go.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today's Locked On Crossover episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, also Illini Nation. Just like we said, hey, it's a crossover episode here of Locked On Spartans, Locked On Illini. What's up, everyone? Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans. Over there, Sonny Verma of Locked On Illini. And Sonny, 6-win Illini team versus a Michigan State team that needs to win 2 of their next 3 to get to bowl eligibility. Can you feel the energy in the air for Saturday, 2:30 Eastern time? Let's go, baby. Woo.
You know, we might already be bowl eligible at 6 wins, but I'm telling you, the energy's a lot more nervous on our side.
Okay.
2 years ago, we started that season 7-1, finished the year 8-5. Now, granted, we've lost 3 games, and 2 of them, one of them was at Oregon, and one of them was at Penn State, games that most people think that you're supposed to lose. But our last game right before the bye, we lost to Minnesota at home. Granted, we could have won that game at the end, but the injury bug has turned its ugly head towards the Illini right now, and there's a lot of nervous energy coming out of Champaign.
Look, obviously, I'm hoping it's deja vu from a few years ago. You know, one of the few times we actually got to smile in that season over here in East Lansing, but look, Sonny, not the sexiest game nationwide for those on the outside looking in. A series of catastrophic events would have to unfold for this to even matter in the Big Ten race, of course, let alone the college football playoff race. But hey, we talked in the offseason, for those sickos that, wanted to listen to some summer episodes here, might recall our chat that, hey, this game, sneaky important game for both programs. This could be a game that could make or break bowl eligibility for both teams. Obviously, you guys are already there. For my Michigan State Spartans, got 3 gettable games left is what we'll call it. So yes, you get this one. Okay, now you just need to win one of your last 2 home games to make it to the game above bowl, the first responders. But whatever the bowl game is going to be, I don't really care at this point. Any bowl game is going to be great in my eyes. But for you guys, already locked up bowl eligibility. What would a win here mean? I know it's a very broad question, but what are you guys playing for over there?
Played for a lot, to be honest. Again, the Vegas over-under was 5.5, right? And Illinois started the season 6-1. So immediately they crushed their Las Vegas over-under. But realistically, if this team, we just went through the gauntlet of our schedule. Now we have Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers, and Northwestern. 4 very winnable games. And when you're at 6 wins with those 4 remaining on your schedule, you want to come out and finish the season with 9 wins, if not 10 wins. Now, already we've lost against Minnesota. And as I don't have to remind you, because it started with you guys 2 years ago, the team started 7-1, went on a little swoon, 8-5. Brett Bielema last year, we just as it looked like we were starting to turn things around, we lost 2 out of 3 in November. There's something about this calendar month that Brett Bielema has struggled with while being in charge of the Illini football team. So honestly, there's a lot at stake here because right now, as I mentioned, a lot of us are kind of on edge. We have a good but not great football team, and at this point, we need to beat Michigan State because it's our last home game. Right after this, we go to Rutgers.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know Rutgers is struggling, but still, when you're playing them at Rutgers, it's always tough. And so, a Greg Schiano team's going to beat you up, and this is a team that's already kind of beaten up. And then we wrap up the season against Northwestern. So it's one of those where ultimately we really want to finish the season with at least 8 wins. And I know, speaking as an Illinois fan, that sounds ridiculous. That how could I be hoping for 8 wins? But that's just when you start with 6 out of your first 7. You want to win 2 out of your last 4.
Of course, especially with the schedule lined up the way it is for you guys. Can you guys make it physical next week? Not to jump ahead and, just bypass our game, but can you make it really physical against Rutgers? I'm not saying, go for injuries and dirty cheap shot, ACL tears, but can they get bruised and battered before they make it to East Lansing for the final game here? Can you promise me that, Sonny?
Have they gotten healthy yet? I know they're struggling too with a lot of injuries at this point. So, it might just be a game of the handicaps between the two. Because I'm talking, we're on our second string on a lot of these play lines at this point.
Dude, we're one injury away here in East Lansing from me playing right guard. It's not good. A lot of attrition after the last few weeks for a lot of programs. Unfortunately, ours are part of that. But just going back really quick, we're going to get more specific into the game. I'll grill you about your Illini. You'll grill me about the Spartans here in the next few segments. But just an overall vibe check on Brett Bielema, the state of the program right now for Illinois. You guys happy down there with how everything's going, or what's the vibe like?
For the most part, yeah. I would argue, and I hope people don't get offended when I say this, the sensible crowd that supports the Illini, we're very, very satisfied with Brett. Mm-hmm. Brett, one of those guys who he may have some sort of ceiling with how high he can take a football team, but he's like one of the top 10, 15 CEO type of head coaches
certainly
in the country. And he's got a unlimited Rolodex when it comes to finding, young assistant coach talent. A lot of the assistant coach talent can't wait to come work with him in Champaign. And most importantly, we're just very lucky that he just happened to grow up in Illinois. He was born in Illinois. So he's someone who obviously had his early career success at Wisconsin, went to 3 Rose Bowls or something like that.
Yeah.
Went down to Arkansas, struggled a little bit. But I mean, if you see everyone since he left Arkansas, that's just a really tough job.
It is.
One of the toughest jobs. And so I think that humbled him a little bit from that cocky up-and-coming head coach that we had so much success at Wisconsin. And now he's kind of at the point where he just appreciates, he took the time off to learn under Nick Saban, to learn under Bill Belichick. You're literally talking about 2 of the greatest coaches of all time. And he wanted to find a spot where he thinks he could just kind of settle down for the rest of his career. And I think he's found it at Illinois. He's gone about it the right way. He made like 400 phone calls in the first 3-4 hours of being hired at Illinois. He's building from the ground up. Our recruiting classes haven't been great, but honestly, Brett's recruiting classes weren't great at Wisconsin either. This is and probably will always be a development program, but it's just nice to have someone who recognizes that. And it's just he's not trying to take the shortcut, the easy way out. Like, he understands this is going to be a progress, but here we are in year 4, and we might be at 8 wins for Illinois. That's
solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like what we got going on here at East Lansing with Jonathan Smith, who said, like, almost verbatim, we're not going to cut corners in this rebuild, which is what it is here in East Lansing. I know that a lot of state fans are kind of, split between, is this a rebuild? Should we be going faster? But the fact of the matter is, you got to do a cultural overhaul. Right. Well, of course, the play on the field, too, needs to. It's been going fine over here. I think a win would do a lot here, not just for the players and the coaches. Who cares about the people that actually matter here? Let's talk about the irrelevant people, like us fans over here, because if you just blind resume, you didn't know which helmet was being worn the last few weeks. If you just said, okay, Michigan State has 4 wins going into the last 3 games, fine. All right, you know what? This was expected. The over-under win total was 4.5. Okay, November sets up nice for us. Just the fact that, when you do see the helmets being worn the last few weeks, a Michigan team that is just atrocious, still sick to my stomach we lost to those guys, Sonny. That's the worst Michigan team we'll see in a generation, I think. You guys know this. You beat them by 2 touchdowns. And then, another first-year coach. Yeah, it was, I smiled, and then all of a sudden we did our thing, and now I can't smile about anything that happens to them. And then the week after, Indiana, another first-year head coach with Kurt Stewart doing amazing work. It's like, okay, we just got bombed by roughly 37 points. That was off the heels of a bad rivalry loss. So what a win does for us fans is, it gets us 1 win closer to a bowl game, reaching the goal of year 1 of a rebuild. But, man, we just need to get a sour taste out of our mouths here, because in a year, which was going to be, hey, you know what? Only surprises can make us happy. Low expectations. We found a way to still be upset despite low expectations. That's what a win here would do for us in year 1 of this rebuild. Sonny, I'm going to grill you about your Fighting Illini down there. But first, we need to talk to people's ears off about FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Now, at the time of recording, Sonny's Illini 3.5-point favorites, trying to defend their home field in Champaign. If you're liking the green and white, go on over to FanDuel. If you're liking the Illini, of course, Well, yeah, go on over to FanDuel. You know where to go, America's #1 sports book. And also, guys, well, if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sports book. Again, guys, FanDuel.com. All right, Sonny, point blank, is this just Bielema ball? Just tough, good offensive line, running the ball, or what are we going to be getting a healthy dose of Saturday afternoon?
Matt, the complete opposite.
Why? How did this happen?
I'm telling you, none of this makes sense. Zero of this makes sense. This is not a Brett Bielema team in any sort of manner.
It's strange.
The two lines are arguably the worst units on this football team. This offensive line is, unfortunately, again, I have no explanation for it, but Brett Bielema has not been able to figure out that offensive line. It's just super young. We keep moving guys around. Luke Altmaier over the last couple of weeks seems to be losing confidence and kind of reverting to his ways from last year, where he's losing the ball. He's not throwing interceptions, but I think he's had three fumbles in the last 2 games, and all of them being lost. But funny enough, this is a passing team now. Luke Altmaier, despite me saying he's turning the ball over with fumbles, all season long, we were 6-1 largely on Luke's back. We have 2 wide receivers in Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, who are going to be playing on Sundays next year. Our star running back, Caden Fagan, unfortunately got hurt for the year, and so he's not going to be playing.
Okay.
But we've had somewhat of like a running back by committee, and quite honestly, that's one of those Brett Bielema ball sticks that have stayed. Our running back room is still very, very talented between Josh McCray, Aiden Lawfrey, and we have a 4-star freshman, Khalil Valentine, who seemingly every time he's on the field, something good happens. But really, on the offensive side, it's just right now, this is a fix-it game for Luke Altmaier and that offensive coordinator. Barry Lundy Jr., the microscope is on him at this point, just because people don't like the way he called the game the last couple of weeks. Now, 3 weeks ago, when you're playing Oregon, that's fine. You're going to get boat race.
It is what it is, right? Yeah.
But a team like Minnesota, which you're supposed to pretty much be at the same level as, they just didn't play very impressively. So again, I think getting Luke on the right track again. I think when he's a top 5 quarterback in the Big Ten. It's going to be the key to come out victorious on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right where I wanted to go next in the conversation, Luke Altmaier, because I can't help to notice. And I remember watching those earlier games. It's like, oh my God, this kid looks really incredible right now. 10 touchdowns in the first 4 games, Sonny, and then, in the last 3 games, just 2 touchdowns. Of course, touchdown passes aren't the end-all, be-all stat, but it kind of speaks to the way his season's been going. So confidence, like the offensive line, is that the main issue here, or what is the reason for the downward trend here? Keep it in mind, too, you played a solid Michigan defense, right? You played Oregon, of course, and then, Minnesota, they always have a strong defense, too. Is it just puzzling, or is it really easy to just put on that offensive line?
It's mostly the offensive line.
Okay.
The 2 tackles are transfers we got, J.C. Davis and Melvin Priestley Jr. They've played very well. Both will probably play in the NFL. J.C. Davis maybe even next year. But the interior, our center is slightly undersized, and we still really haven't been able to figure out the guard positions. We're moving guys around. Guys are getting hurt at this point. I just don't think Luke is comfortable right now. And I think, unfortunately, the game against Penn State, basically they realized that there was no running game that we were able to establish, because Caden Fagan's the type of running back who he's massive, right? He's a guy who's the size of a linebacker. So he basically ran to a spot. But if the spot's not there, which the spot hasn't been because the offensive line has been playing very well,
sure.
The defense basically just swarmed him. And so when defenses are able to basically just, pull their ears back and go after Luke, he's been he played fine the first 5-6 games. But now I think maybe it's just the caliber of the defenses. I don't know if they've shaken his confidence a little bit, but he's definitely taken a couple steps back. Not saying, again, he's still one of our best weapons in general, especially his connection with Zachary Franklin and Pat Bryant.
Sure.
Like I said, 2 guys who are just 2 of the best receivers that you're going to see in this conference. So that's why I'm going to be very curious to asking you what your secondary looks like. But we lost our starting tight end in the offseason. And so we've kind of had young guys come in and play that spot just to offer Luke another option, but they're not really pass catching tight ends. So it's really all about that running back by committee. And quite honestly, it's just, I hope, and I talked about this in the bye week episode when I talked about what Illinois had to focus on. It's you got to figure something out with this offensive line because we have 3 games left. They're all 3 are very winnable games, but there's going to be such a stark difference between finishing the season with 9 wins or finishing the season with only 7 wins. Again, both over the over or under, but when you start off with 6 in your first 7, each one's going to leave a different taste in your mouth.
What a battle we have coming up, because I was bemoaning about our pass rush here because it's been terrible, like maybe arguably the worst in the nation the last few weeks. So this is great. A spaghetti strainer against hardening concrete right now. Who's going to win this battle? I cannot wait to find out. Let's flip it really quick to your defense. What makes you smile more as an Illini fan, when the opposition passes the ball or runs the ball? Where are you guys stronger in stopping, the air raid or the ground game?
No. We haven't been able to stop anyone when it comes to the action game. And I mean anybody. Early in the season, it was incredible that we were 6-1 because it seemed like teams would just stop running on us on the second half. And so for some reason, except for Penn State, and guess what? Penn State won this game. So yeah. For us, we're a turnover machine when it comes to the ball hawking in our secondary. You're laughing. So is this another pristine matchup? Is that what you're hinting at?
Well, I mean, there's nothing our team loves more than turning the ball over. So that's just been absolutely breaking our backs. The run game, oddly, out of the bye week, 3 weeks ago now, against Iowa, looked fantastic. Against Michigan, they looked fantastic running the ball, and then took a major step back against Indiana. So, look, out of the whole, 9 games so far, we've looked really good running the ball in 2 of them. So I do wonder if, the real us is the other 7 games where we haven't ran the ball well, but we're really going to find out here. I'm also laughing too, because peek behind the curtain. We're just talking shop now. I talked about this before you were recording, but we do crossover episodes all the time, right? Like I've talked with Locked On Hoosiers, Locked On Ducks, Locked On Buckeyes. I like all those guys. They talk very confidently of their team. We get some comments like, hey, those guys are way too arrogant. They need to be knocked down a few pegs. It's like those guys also talk about teams that have 1 loss at most, that will all be likely in the college football playoff. If I had those teams, I'd be pretty arrogant too. Which I don't think. But I'm laughing because, look at this. This is a crossover episode. It's healthy for everyone involved here. This is going to be spectacular on Saturday. But God, I need to see the win. I need to see a win. How is the pass rush for you guys though? Because that's been an issue too with our patchwork offensive line. A lot of injuries so far. I know that we've said the word injuries 57 times so far this show, but truly, no one's felt it more than our offensive line. Will our guy Aidan Chiles just be dancing back there the entire night, or what do we got here?
I wouldn't say dancing. It's not going to be the worst defensive line that you're facing this season, but it's certainly not even probably in the top half. There's just not any playmakers that we have, and we have guys like Gabe Yakus and Seth Coleman who kind of go back and forth between the line and linebackers. But for the most part, I think Aiden's, if he commits turnovers, it's going to be because he's making some poor choices, which, of course, we're going to probably talk about in the next segment. It's a line that, again, if you're passing the ball, he'll probably have enough time. We're going to kind of be counting on our defensive backs to make the plays. And I'm telling you, every time I have these crossovers as well, I always like to follow up with, the other host and say, hey, what did you think of the Illini? And one of the main things that's always been said is I can't believe how well coached that defense is. Okay. In the sense where, these aren't 5-star talents. These aren't even 4-star talents, but it's one of those where if they get their hands on you, they bring you down. They're just very well coached. The technique is, very solid against, it's different when you're going up against a 5-star top 10 player, like an Oregon wide receiver. But when you're talking about teams more at our level, it's just one of those where I'm hoping you guys pass it more than you decide to rush the ball.
We'll find out. We'll see. Let's learn more about the Michigan State Spartans here. Sonny's going to grill me here in a hot second. But first, I need to talk everyone's ears off about Game Time, the greatest ticketing app out there. There are so many reasons why I love Game Time. And, well, you know what? For the Locked On Illini listeners that don't listen to me all the time, I'll just say it. I like saving some money, Sonny. I'm a big money-saving guy, and Game Time has a variety of ways to do that. Now, let's say that, well, if you're a Spartan fan, you know you want to go to the last game of the season against Rutgers. It's about 2.5 weeks out. You, right now, can still get great deals in great sections with their flash deals. Or this Saturday, if you wake up in Champaign, you realize, like, oh, my God, I got nothing going on today. But oh my God, it's already 1:15, 15 minutes till kickoff. How am I going to get tickets? They got last minute ticket deals too. They even go on a little bit into the game too. So save big with great tickets in great sections over at Game Time. They got the lowest price guarantee. They will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same area with a higher price. Guys, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? You already know it. It's game time. All right, Sonny. You just want to talk to the quarterback right away because everyone wants to hear about Aidan Chiles. Not to do your job for you, but
no. You read my mind. You know, obviously, coming into this season, the big name was the new coaching hire that you had, Jonathan Smith, and he brings Aidan Chiles with him. Well, now we're a little halfway through the season. What are your thoughts on this quarterback?
How much time we got left? You got 10 minutes left? Because I could go on for 2.5 hours. I like the kid. I like him. He gives Michigan State the best chance to win, not just this year, but also when you're rebuilding the program. Okay, you want the quarterback to try to find his ceiling in this year that maybe next year can get a little better. I would be lying if I said it's been a perfect season or even just like a really good season because it's been a roller coaster. The line I use every week is that he is human cryptocurrency, Sonny. All right. One drive, you feel like you are in a Bugatti just racing down the Champs-Élysées in Paris, like you're on top of the world. And then the very next drive, my goodness gracious, you lost all your clothes and you had to sell your house. And like, it's crazy. He will make plays that you see on Sundays and then have just like the strangest decision possible. Now, what has been happening until last week, the decision-making was getting better. Yes, he still had the fumbles, he had interceptions, but at least he was smarter with the ball, keeping it out of trouble. Relapsed last week with 2 first-half interceptions when really it didn't really seem like extraordinary defense Indiana was throwing at him, no shadow coverages or anything. So he took a step back. Now, progress isn't linear. You kind of expect a dip every once in a while, but will that dip keep going down, or can he continue the progress that we saw the last few weeks? That is the name of the game. Look, I know he's going to have a turnover this game, but can it just be one turnover? Please? I beg you. So that's the Aidan Chiles story. He's so exciting, but for both fan bases that watch games. Yeah.
So I have happened to watch a couple of Michigan State games and watching Chiles, who he reminds me of, and I want to actually hear your feedback on this because you're the first Michigan State fan. Then
let's go.
I'm bringing this comparison to is Adrian Martinez from Nebraska from a couple years back.
Oh, wow!
And then just an up and down, game by game, you saw what he could be. You would think NFL-wise,
yes.
But in some games, you're just like pulling your hair out. That was the comparison I made, at least from the first couple of games I watched of Aidan. What do you think of that?
Right now, I can't turn it down. Of course, I can. Dynamic with his legs, of course, has some pretty solid throws, but yeah, just sometimes not every game. Sometimes crippling decision making though. Adrian Martinez, man, the first 55 minutes of a game, he was great. and then when it was the lights are bright time, that's yeah. So Chiles, he makes his bad decisions in the first half, whereas Martinez made them in the second half. But nevertheless, I do like that comparison. That's a strong one where things are at right now. Hope that changes a little bit. I hope it's not like that forever, but I like that, Sonny. So. That's good. Yeah.
So, but you are content with Aidan being your quarterback of the future. You're not overlooking or looking over his shoulder and seeing what other prospects might be out there.
I'm not. I do not speak for every Michigan State fan. Just check my inbox, lockedonspartans@gmail.com, and you will find some fans that are ready to just go on to the next guy, or at the very least, be vocal in bringing in a transfer to at least push him next year. Now, easier said than done. What transfer can you kind of get that's, hey, come on over so you'll be the backup, but maybe just test this guy a little bit. Of course, it doesn't work like that. I still think he gives you the best chance. Look, his ceiling, sky high. Of course, the turnover issue is a massive issue that you got to get through, but he's got 3 more games to really give us some optimism going into next season. So I think that he still is the best path forward here. But of course, It's starting to become a little 50-50 split here as the weeks go on with just the sheer amount of turnovers that we've seen.
So, like I was saying, I think the game script for the Spartans to come out victorious on Saturday is to find a running game and just sticking to it. And so, tell me a little bit about the running back rooms for Michigan State.
Yeah, it's pretty much down to two guys, Nate Carter, who had a fantastic game against Michigan, right? Like, he's been kind of just up and down throughout his career. I've always liked him, but also getting no help from the offensive line. An offensive line that, so I don't know if I've said this yet, has had some injuries so far this year. I don't know if I've made that clear enough, but so it's been tough for him. The other guy, Kayron Lynch-Adams, transferred from UMass. He runs like a Rottweiler. Like, I'm not going to say he is Isaiah Pacheco, but he is similar in the way of like, oh my God, this guy is just, he's angry. He's an upset guy with the football in his hand, which that's what you need if you're getting hit behind the line of scrimmage at the clip that our running backs have. Well, in 7 of these 9 games that we've been talking about. So it's a good room. They don't really get a lot of help, though, here, unless you're wearing a Hawkeye helmet or a Wolverine helmet. In that case, my God, go ahead and get your 5 yards per carry. But outside of that, anyone else, it's been tough. It's been tough to move the ball on the ground.
What about the defensive side of the football? What are the key names that Illini fans should look out for?
Yeah, so I know you want to talk about secondary. So some of those guys right there, Malik Spencer, he's one of the guys that could be potentially playing on Sundays. Depends what week you watch him in. Sometimes he's brilliant. Other times it's son. Why are you biting on that fake by Michigan? Colson Loveland's running right in front of your face mask, and there's a touchdown that just sealed the game right there. Not like I'm still harping on that or anything, of course. But look, the linebackers too. Jordan Turner, really solid linebacker. Wayne Matthews, really good in pass coverage, and Jordan Hall too. Those are the 3 linebackers that are really the strength of this defense. Linebacker has been the strength all year for us. What's interesting is that Chuck Brantley, a cornerback, he's been really strong so far this year, but he left the last game in crutches, although Jonathan Smith said that no one sustained a season-ending injury, so I don't know if he's back this Saturday. That's going to be a big one to keep an eye out for because he's been really strong in the secondary too.
So I guess we'll just wrap it up. Matt, tell me, are you satisfied with the overall identity that Jonathan Smith is building what Michigan State football is going to eventually look like?
Tough time to ask the question after those 2 losses. A heated rivalry game. Of course, you never like losing to Michigan, especially when they're that bad. And then, you see the other first-year head coach curb stomp you on your home stadium. I still think Jonathan Smith is the way to go. He's done it at Oregon State. He knows the way to a rebuild. Of course, recruiting has to get better. There are some issues that we do have to see patched up. But what doesn't help Michigan State, and this goes for both coordinators too, it's we don't really have a pass rush whatsoever. We haven't had a sack since Boston College. That game was in September, Sonny. All right. And since that game, just 12 pressures total on the quarter. It's been horrendous. So what can you do as a defensive coordinator? You're asking Van Gogh to paint, and all that you've given him was a jar of tapioca pudding. You can't do anything with this. Offense, the same. The offensive line struggled. Of course, the excuses already was that, but it's tough to see the vision right now because you've seen at Oregon State, he wants to build a tough physical football team, run first, a lot of screen action, motion. It's hard for him to establish that so far early on. But should he continue the trajectory of where he was at Oregon State and eventually bring it back to run first, I like where things are at and just the cultural overhaul so far. I know it sounds cheesy, I know it sounds cliche, but it really does mean something. I think it's in a good spot here, much better than what it was the last few years under Mel Tucker here in East Lansing. So right now I like it. Not every fan is sold yet, and I understand that, but I saw the vision that he had at Oregon State, and I see how it could work here.
Yeah, for the record, I love the hire. I thought it was the best hire in the conference. Now, obviously, we've seen what Kurt Stewart's doing with Indiana, but
doing okay.
Yeah, decent enough. But that's also one of the questions: how long does Kurt stay in Indiana? Do the Hoosiers really pay up and keep him in Bloomington? So ultimately, you might still win out on this one.
I know. Look, they get to wave the flag that they got the best hire of the offseason because the goal here is, hey, you know what? One day be part of the college football playoff discussion within maybe 3-4 years here. Well, one guy's already done it in year 1. So 2 different methods to the madness, 2 different ways to rebuild a team, which we talked ad nauseum about at Lockdown Spartans last few episodes. But yeah, safe to say that they got a strong guy over there. Now, Jonathan Smith getting silver medal, I don't hate that.
Right.
That's fine. Yeah, a lot to be determined. Is it prediction time, Sonny?
Are we doing that already?
You can sense the enthusiasm from
both.
both of us. Catch the energy, the confidence. No emails come to lockdownspartans@gmail.com saying, wow, that Sonny guy, he's way too arrogant.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. Overall, I'll be honest. You telling me that you're having issues with your defensive line, that's always my number one scare when it comes to every opponent that the Illini go up against.
Yeah.
I think that's shifted me toward. I think I was predicting us to win anyway, just because the game was at home. I'm just going to go ahead. Let's just say 27-20 Illini victory.
I'm just going to whisper this so Michigan State fans don't get mad at me here. 23-20 Illinois. Is there a world Michigan State wins? Absolutely there is. I'd be a clown to not say that. Like, it's not a 3-point spread for no reason, but the turnovers have been an issue all season. The lack of pass rush. I think Luke Altmaier can find some new confidence with this, as he won't even see the whites of any defensive lineman's eyes the entire game, because no one even gets close to the quarterback in this. So long story short, I think Illinois does get the 23-20 loss or win. I got him stumbling to the finish line here, but yeah, it's, I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong.
I hope even if Illinois does come out victorious this weekend, that we can soften up the Rutgers for you by the end of the season.
If you just do that, that'd be great. I want to smile to end a season for the first time in a long time, Sonny, if you don't mind doing that for us. So thank you. Appreciate that. Guys, that's Sonny Burma over there, Locked On Illini. Matt Sheehan over here, Locked On Spartans. After this game wraps up on Saturday, which, by the way, for MSU fans, we also got a basketball game Saturday, too, so it will be a double feature show for us. That's right. Take care of Illinois and then Bowling Green on the hardwood. So, yeah, you can catch us here, Locked On Spartans. And, of course, Sonny's got you covered over there, Locked On Illini. We will see you guys Saturday. Take care of yourselves the rest of the week. If I can get the words out of my mouth. All right, guys, take care.